Zach, we are back and we are talking what we trade every first round pick for. And today we are looking at the one quarterback side of things for our one QB listeners and viewers out there. Before we get into it, though, be sure you're liking the video, commenting down below what you're looking to trade every single one of your first round picks. We'll also be diving into a bit of the second round, breaking up some pick ranges into chunks to expedite things. And since the values don't change too much in those spans either which way, and if you really want that much more help knowing what you should be trading each first round pick for, getting on that Discord action, heading over to patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind, 7-day free trial. Check out some bonus podcasts while you're there. With all that said, Zach, we are going to get right on into this thing. I gave you the 101 so you can start off discussions today. You have the 101. You're looking to trade out. What are you looking to get for it?
This is a lottery ticket with pretty high odds of winning, right? I mean, So for me, I'm looking at drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. here. Well, I'm somebody who I prefer guaranteed production. And I know Marvin Harrison Jr. is like the new hot thing, right? But I'm going to go ahead and capitalize on that, on your desire to get the newest and the hottest thing. And I'm going to ask for what's been the hottest thing since he took off in his own rookie year. And that's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. And not only am I going to do that, Bob, but I'm going to capitalize on your rookie fever. And I'm going to ask you for a 24 third round pick. The reason why I actually do want this to be a 24 third round pick is I really like the third round this year. And I can kind of visualize what I'm getting there in that third round. If it's a 25 third round, I have no idea what I'm getting there. So I'd just be asking for it to ask for it. But I am asking for a 24 third round pick because I like what I can get in the third round. And this is a late third, by the way, Bob. So I really don't feel like this is asking for too much. I most likely earned this pick, Bob, by paying for my fantasy season and knowing I wasn't going to compete. So I earned this first round pick. So if you want to come in now, after the whole season, after I sucked and you got to compete, if you want to come in now, you got to make it worth my time. You can't just come in here and offer me an even deal. An even deal gets thrown out the door. See you later, pal. I don't want even. I want a little bit extra. I want to have my cake and eat it too. I want the sprinkles on the froyo, okay? I want the cream filling in the donut here. I'm going to ask for the 2-for-1 here because I'm looking at startups, right? I realize that Amon-Ra St. Brown is going a little bit above Marvin Harrison Jr. right now in startups. However, there is a real world where a year from now, Marvin Harrison Jr. goes ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown in startups. And for that reason, I want to protect myself with just a little buffer of a late third. So can you make that happen for me, Bob?
I can't. And this is the twist we do in these videos. We are going to be, in a position to counter back and kind of see where we actually want to, make this deal. So do some mock trade action. And for me, I didn't get that late 24 third by making deals like this and sending away what is a proven commodity in Amon-Ra St. Brown for Marvin Harrison Jr., let alone with a plus on top. And as much as I think Marvin Harrison Jr. can get to that level of a top 5 dynasty wide receiver, like he's being valued in a lot of spots. And I do think there are people who would take straight up, you have the 2 to choose from. I think there are a good few number of people, right or wrong, that probably wrong in my opinion, would probably take Marvin Harrison Jr. because he's the young, new hotness, like you said. I'm not going to do that. I will counter this deal, though. And I have 2 counters for you. One, if you really want Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're going to pay for him. I'm going to take that 101, and I'm going to take your linear 201 that you also earned by not being a good team last year. You get this proven commodity. Like I said, I'm well in on the Amon-Ra St. Brown bandwagon as well, much like you are. And that's kind of where I am at if you want Amon-Ra St. Brown. But if you want to get somebody who's, a little lesser valued, somebody I think you could push this 101 for this wide receiver plus a third, I think you could do that for someone like Drake London. If you wanted to get a wide receiver that is also still good, trending in the right direction, maybe helps you be a little more competitive if you're even in that position, and you get a third on top. But I don't think I'm willing to do Amon-Ra St. Brown for any less. I'm just not going to do it, Zach. So those are my counters. Those are my options. You can counter those a little bit, or we can just say, hey, no deal. It is what it is. But I do think that those are kind of where those values need to be. What are your thoughts, Zach?
Well, first of all, Bob, you came to me asking for the trade, okay? You were the one who's showing that you really want Marvin Harrison Jr. So for that reason, I'm not giving you 101 and 201 for Amon-Ra St. Brown. But maybe we can meet a little closer in the middle to the Drake London. I don't want Drake London. We had this discussion in our Discord the other day. I'm not on the Drake London hype bandwagon train where it is right now. We're back to 2022 Drake London values. I'm out. No, thank you. What I will do is, how about instead of Drake London, we do Chris Olave and a 25 second round pick.
Zach, that's my boy.
I know.
That's my
why
boy
when I
you're
looked at
talking
this, I
about.
laughed at you. I laughed a little. I chuckled inside.
I won't do the second with Olave. I will do a third for a fourth in exchange. So you'd send me 101 and a fourth for Chris Olave and a third. Zach, put her there. I'll throw you $5 fab too.
Okay, one more counter, Bob. Instead of a second, I'll take a third this year, which is late. Okay,
Sure.
And a third next year, which with the addition of Marvin Harrison Jr., this is 312 in 2025, buddy.
So it'd be 101 to me in exchange for Chris Olave and two later thirds.
One in this year, one in next year.
I don't love it, but I do think that gets done in a lot of leagues. I think that would, for somebody who doesn't have the emotional attachment to Chris Olave that I do, I think that gets done. So for the sake of this case, this video, Zach, you got a deal for the 101. With that said, we're going to try to move on and get a deal done for the 102. I have this pick. I'm trying to move it. I'm a bad team. I earned this pick, at the top of the draft pick slots here, I guess you could say. I need help. 102, as much as I love to pick up Malik Neighbors, as much as I love to pick up Rome Odunze, one piece is probably not going to help my team that much, especially in a deeper starting format when it comes to getting myself on the right track to being not the 102 anymore, being closer to 112 or 111 even. Great. So I'm looking to get another wide receiver, somebody who can help me, be on my team throughout this rebuild as a locked-in starter at some point. Looking to get Jaden Reed, a 25 first and a 25 second in this deal. Like I said, I need help. Happy to get some for next year. Happy to downgrade my wide receiver in the grand spectrum of thing. Jaden Reed is in the wide receiver 20s range. Has bounced from, wide receiver 24 to wide receiver 30-ish. So getting a first next year on top, a second as well next year on top for moving out of the 102. Zach, I think this is a solid deal. You want to go get one of your favorite wide receivers in this class. You're willing to chuck some value my way, I think.
Yeah, I think this is a great offer to start. And just for the reason of I don't want to do a 3-for-1 deal, I'm just going to ask for a third round pick back. I don't care what season it is. It could be, 305 this year. It could be any third next year. I just need a little something back because 3-for-1 is tough to swallow. And it does help that two of the pieces are next year. I don't have to take that hit right away. Right now, it's just a 1-for-1. It's just Jaden Reed for the 102, that's nice. I get a significant upgrade. I do lose those two first round picks, but I don't feel that until a year from now. But so I would like a little bit of protection. I would ask for the 24. I'm always going to ask for the 24 pick first because I love the third round of this year. I don't know what the third round of next year looks like. So if I can project a little bit more what I'm getting back, and when I'm asking for a third, I'm always going to ask for a 24 pick. So I like this deal, Bob. I'll do it if you can add a 2024 third round pick.
See, and the beautiful part about adding a 24 third instead of backing straight up into 25 that you've admitted to me in this video that you're okay with doing, the beauty of that in a trade negotiation is you're kind of setting yourself up in a position to have a counter come your way that is in the middle ground that you want to get to. So I'm happy sending you a 25 third. With this being my pick, my third, it's probably looking like it's going to be an early one anyway. Yes, it's random. Yes, we don't know exactly what the talent level is going to be there, but that's what I'm willing to send back. Willing to send you 25 third back with this deal. So I would be sending you, Zach, the 102 and a 25 third in exchange for Jaden Reed, a 25 first and 25 second. Do we have a deal, good sir?
Yeah, we do. I like that. I appreciate that deal. I prefer the 24 third, but that's why I'm not afraid to say those things in a negotiation, by the way, because as you said, it sets someone up for, hey, I won't do this, but I'll do this. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool. No problem. Let's go. Signed, sealed, delivered. Add $3 FAD. We're good.
Fair enough. I'll throw $1 at you. I'll throw $1 fab in there just for being a buddy. Zach, we're moving on to the 103 here. You got an offer. You're trying to move this pick. You're coming at me with some shenanigans. Maybe I don't actually think they're that shenanigans, but what do you got here? What are you looking to get out of your 103 instead of drafting? What are you thinking?
What I'm doing here is this is a tier break right here. This is the last big draft pick in a one quarterback league. After that, it's a bunch of question marks. But this is either Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze. I'm going to aim high here because this is a tier break. This is where everything changes in the draft. And I'm going to be asking for the tight end 1 in Dynasty Fantasy Football, and that's Sam Laporta. I'm not moving off what could be the wide receiver 1, Bob, in almost any other draft class if I don't get something elite in return. To me, I don't want to divert a special asset into 3 assets unless I really, really need the depth. If I'm moving off something special, I want something special in return. I want something elite in return. I threw some trades together and I was like Rashad White and this, and I'm like, no. I want something special in return for this because Rome Odunze or Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors are special players. All 3 could be wide receiver 1s in any draft class any year. So if I can get Sam Laporta in this trade, I may never have to worry about setting my tight end position, Bob, for the next decade. What more can I ask for from a draft pick than to just set it and forget it? 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, make that time frame whatever you want. Sam Laporta fits it. And so would Rome Odunze, in my opinion. I'm just not interested in divesting this into 2 or 3 assets. I need something elite for an elite wide receiver here, Bob. What say you?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty in on this deal. I feel like as much as I love Laporta, and you are 1,000,000% correct that he's probably a plug and play for the next X years. Great. But the thing is, I'm very in on this wide receiver class, especially at the top. And I think I'm getting that at the wide receiver position. And I think I can recoup some of that production at tight end without a ton of headaches. Now, it won't be as easy as plug and play, but I feel like I can find good enough tight ends to supplement that production as I need to. And I think at the end of the day, when I'm looking at how many points are going into my lineup, I think Odunze ends up putting more eventually into my lineup than a Sam Laporta. So I'm actually pretty on with this deal as is. I think you're spot on asking for a high-end asset. As fun as it is to sometimes get, a multitude of assets in return, sometimes just like you said, what do you want to do with this 103? You want to get somebody that locks into your roster as a long-term piece. Go get somebody you know is going to do that, and you already have that checked off your box, your rebuilding to-do list. Getting that locked and loaded, I think this is a pretty fair deal. I'm happy to do this, Zach. Let's put it in the books as a deal. We talked some tight ends here. We're going to talk some more tight ends here at the 104. Probably going to be the Brock Bowers pick. I do think there are realms where Brian Thomas Jr. is going to come into consideration for this pick, especially when we get landing spots, things of that sort. But it's going to be one of those 2 more than likely at this pick. I don't see many others contending in a 1 quarterback at this pick. First, I'm looking at tight ends that I can get a plus on top of in exchange for somebody wanting to go get Brock Bowers, who is, again, we are selling the rookie fever here. Brock Bowers is an elite tight end prospect. There's no doubt about it. Crazy, insane production as a tight end, some of the best that there's ever been. And I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's going to be great at the next level, but there's just as much chance that he is not out the gate great. We saw what happened with Kyle Pitts. We saw the roller coaster ride that he's been on, and now he's finally kind of back to still probably lesser than he was valued originally out of the gate, where he was, discussions were 2+ first for the guy. I don't want to see that happen. I want to just go get an established tight end prospect at this point, or tight end player at this point. Can I get any of this list plus an asset on top? Can I get TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid, or Kyle Pitts? If I have the 104, I don't necessarily need to compete right now, which opens me up a lot to TJ Hawkinson. And I'm confident that he's 26 years old. He's going to be fine coming back from this injury long term. And I get to keep some points off my roster. He's probably going to score possibly less points than Brock Bowers this season. I call it a good shot since he's probably going to end up on the PUP to start the year. Who knows when he gets back? But besides the point, I'd love any of those tight ends that I could get. Maybe if I have tight end already sorted, maybe this is the Brian Thomas Jr. pick. Another option I'd like to kind of chase is Jackson Smith and Jacob plus a 24 third or 25 second. I don't know if Zack will give me that deal, but I think there's a lot of dynasty managers out there that would send JSN plus a 24 third or 25 second with a smile on their face, going to get Brian Thomas Jr. wherever he ends up. You know, he has a myriad of beautiful landing spots that everybody loves, that they're excited about. Jacksonville, Buffalo is probably the belle of the ball when it comes to ideal landing spots for wide receivers at this point. But Zack, that's what I'm looking to get out of you. You came to me wanting to get this 104. You wanted to, you know, take your shot at tight end. What are you looking to do? What are you countering with, or is this a deal already?
Yeah, I actually really like the TJ Hawkinson plus deal here. I'm a competing team, and I suffered a significant injury at the tight end position, and I cannot risk having a hole at that position. Sure, I can go trade for a David Njoku or Jake Ferguson or Dalton Schultz, but I feel like Brock Bowers is a much more safer floor at the very least, and plus the unlimited potential of what Brock Bowers could be. I like this deal. I'll give you TJ Hawkinson. I'll help you score less points next year. There's an inherent risk that you're eating for me because, hey, maybe he never does get back to what he was. Or maybe that coupled with the fact that there's going to be a rookie quarterback there or Sam Darnold there is going to take a hit to his value, and you're going to eat that for me. And so because you're going to do that for me, Bob, I will give you the future third that you're seeking here. So I think this is a good deal. I'll take the Brock Bowers and the ceiling and the safer floor. I'll give you TJ Hawkinson, help you score a few lesser points next year, and I'll give you an extra pick on top of that.
Love it. We are moving along to the 105. Zack, this is your pick. You got some targets in mind. You've been combing through my roster. You know some guys that you have in mind that you want to target. Who might those players be?
Yeah, you got that rookie fever. We talked about this earlier. You're fiending for a rookie. And this is where, you know, the draft picks, you love them, but the floor is not safe. We just talked about there being a safe floor with Brock Bowers. You know, we don't know where some of these landing spots are. And sure, some of them are going to be juicy, but things could just not work out, right? Look at Garrett Wilson the last 2 years. Things have just not worked out. I don't think anybody thought Chris Olave's floor would be what it has been the last 2 years. I think we had a little bit of a higher expectation. So you never know. And this is where you start to get into that territory of we don't know. Things could not go as you think they will. So 105 is probably the most juiciest landing spot after Brock Bowers, right? Is it whoever lands in Buffalo? Is it whoever lands here? It's a sexy landing spot with a second tier wide receiver is what it's going to be. I'd prefer to buy a little bit of a dip, whether that's the T. Higgins dip or that's the Nico Collins dip. You've got them both, which is crazy. Good job by you on your roster construction. Let me take one of them off your hands. You've been a little frustrated. You didn't get the production out of T. Higgins that you expected last year, but hey, you hit Nico Collins on the head. However, Nico Collins might take a little hit with Stephon Diggs coming there. I take that off of you. I'll give you 105 right here. And I prefer the guaranteed production over the hope of production. This is a theme that you're going to hear from me. I love rookie picks, but if I can turn a rookie pick into something that I think is going to be like this is a solidified player, I'm all for it because you never know when you're drafting the Sky Moore in the first round, where you think you're getting this beautiful player in a sexy landing spot and you're not. I'll take the guaranteed production. You're a little frustrated that T. Higgins, you don't know where he's going to play, right? You think he's going to play in Cincinnati in 2024. Who knows? Maybe he's the New England Patriots wide receiver 1 next year. Maybe he's the New England Patriots wide receiver 1 this year. Maybe Nico Collins is the wide receiver 3 on the Texans. Let me take these on for you. You take my 105, Bob. What say you?
I think this is a pretty decent ask. This is a little bit of knowing your audience. I was probably one of the earliest to really denounce T. Higgins as a future wide receiver 1 and all this. And, hey, and nothing wrong with a good wide receiver 2. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's where T is. I'm willing to move off of T here, but I need a little bit back on top of the 105 because of what you said. There's a known commodity here in T. Higgins. I don't need it to be a lot. I'm looking for a 25 third on top of T, or I'm sorry, I'm looking for a 25 third on top of the 105 to get T. Higgins on your roster. You are still buying a dip here, in my opinion, playing off rookie pick values, so on and so forth. That's what I'm looking to get for sending T. Higgins your way because I do know the value of the player still. And I'm happy to re-roll that little bit on Brian Thomas Jr., who I think could be a little bit more than T. Higgins. I think we're at that discussion of how much more than T. Higgins can he be that justifies, the risk, quote unquote, I'm taking with taking the pick. What do you think, it's Zach?
Well, it just so happens to be that I have the 302. I acquired it in a trade, and you have the 312. You didn't win it. You weren't
Okay.
the champ, but you acquired it. And I'm thinking, I don't love the idea of giving you my early third, but I'm okay with moving back a little bit in
Swap.
the third round if you are.
Okay, so you would send me the 105 and the 302 for my T and 312.
Correct.
You have a deal. I'm happy making that deal, getting to the top of the third. What I'm probably going to look to do with that pick, as I'll touch on a little bit later, probably look to flip that out for a 25 second, see if I can re-roll next year to get that much more value onto that pick and that deal. But Zach, happy making a deal with you there for that one. So now we're moving on to the 106, and we definitely have some contention with this pick on counters and so forth. I don't mean to preview too much or spoil too much, but with 106, one of the big reasons we do these videos, and we'll continue to do these videos, is because when you're on the clock at every pick, some picks, the value you need will not match what's on the board. There's a gaping hole at running back in this draft class. We can all acknowledge it at this point that as much as we like some of the flashier skill players in this offense that are running backs, and there's a boatload of upside. There's always upside with running backs, especially when they get in the right situations, etc. We can all acknowledge that running back is not going to fix your roster in this draft. So I'm looking to trade out of the draft to look at the full spectrum of Dynasty to fix my solution or fix my problem, be the solution to my problem. I'm looking to go get Saquon Barkley here from you, Zach. And this is one of the moves, in my opinion, that you are a middling team at the 106, and this is one that pushes you hard in the direction of competing as opposed to being this middle team in flux for God knows what reason. Maybe you just had a bunch of injuries last year, whatever the case. Maybe you just have a bunch of mid players. Saquon Barkley is heading into the best situation he's ever been in an offense, and a high-powered offense expected to be with Kellen Moore as the OC. Has always led pretty good offenses outside of last year in Los Angeles when they were dealing with a bunch of injuries. But besides the point, I'm not going to sweat that at this moment. So I'm going after Saquon Barkley with this 106, Zach. What do you think about this one?
Well, listen, as somebody who doesn't have a lot of Saquon Barkley, I want to keep the Saquon Barkley that I do have because this landing spot is primo. It's a primo landing spot. We talked about this in our free agency video. But, I'm not selfish. I have a Green Bay Packers player on my roster, and I know my audience. Okay, I've got your boy, Josh Jacobs, on my roster. Now, look, Josh Jacobs and his landing spot is not the same as Saquon Barkley and his landing spot. So I will sweeten the deal for you. I will give you a 25 second round pick and Josh Jacobs for your 106 here, Bob. What say you?
See, I am really gung-ho on getting Saquon Barkley on this deal. So what would it take for me to add on the 106? What are you looking for in future picks? Are you looking for a 25 second? Would that shiver your timbers enough to move me Saquon Barkley for the 106, Zach, as opposed to taking the Josh Jacobs deal?
I need to think about this for a second. Here's the thing. My team failed to meet expectations last year, and I was really on Saquon Barkley to carry me. And it's probably not all his fault, right? The Giants are just a mess. I'm considering moving off of Saquon Barkley for your 106, but I also see that you have you also have a player that I feel strongly is eventually going to break out, and that's Kendre Miller. Let me get your Kendre Miller instead of your future second round pick in 106 for Saquon Barkley.
As much as I also love Kendre Miller, I think that's a good enough deal for me because my thought here is I'm erasing the question marks with Kendre Miller. And I also have a metric crap load of Kendre Miller from drafting him in the second round everywhere last year. So I'm not only because of that, but as an additional reason to be willing to move off and not have enough Saquon Barkley. So I'm definitely willing to make this deal. Send you the 106, send you Kendre Miller for Saquon Barkley. Let's type up the paperwork, get this sent off to corporate, and call this one a done deal. We're moving along to the 107. Zach, you are targeting another running back on my roster. I'm telling you this right now. You're going to have to try pretty hard for this one, pal. What do you got?
Yeah, I know my audience once again. And unfortunately, I wish you were Nate or Mike because this deal would be a slam dunk if it was. I've got the 107. Can I buy low on someone everyone is saying to sell, except for you and me? That's Kyren Williams. I'll take those 2 years of production that are going to be similar. Maybe they don't repeat the efficiency, but the volume I think he can repeat, or he can be 80 to 90% of that, and I'm totally fine with that because that's the top 5 running back. I'll take that production for 2 years. And by the way, if that production continues for 2 years, he will get some kind of a contract from somebody over the wide receiver 6 or 7 in this class, or arguably this is where the first quarterback goes, right? So I'm just going to ask straight up for Kyren Williams. I also go as far as, look, I was so close to winning the championship last year, Bob. I have 210. I need Kyren Williams to put me over the top. You've got 305. Let's make this deal happen. I'll give you 107 and 210 for your Kyren Williams in your mid-third.
Like you said, if I was Mike or Nate, this would have been a much easier deal to get done. And a big part of me is if you do have the concerns with Kyren Williams, this is a decent enough exit strategy to get off of him and get something good enough on your roster. I would like more. However, I don't think I'm willing to send you that 3rd round pick back. I may be willing to send you a 25 third instead of this year's 3rd. I know that's not as appealing of a trade down. Maybe I could send you a later pick instead of that 3rd in this year's class. And it's one of these players that, as much as we talk about not having it, there's some emotional attachment to this player. I've been in on Kyren for a long time, annoyed with myself that I got shook off from the combine, but everybody did, so I'm not alone there. So I think I have to be aggressive with my counter as much as, maybe the comments scream like, man, take the deal, you crazy man. I think that's where I'm at. I think I'm not going to send you that 3rd round pick this year. I will consider one for next year instead, or a later pick this year in the early to mid 4th round. Maybe trade you down somewhere there. I'd consider that.
Well, I probably shouldn't have been asking for all your favorite players in this video, but Bob, I'll take that deal. I'll take that deal. I really would like to get that 3rd round pick this year, and I in reality I'd try and schmooze you to get that 3rd this year. But if I can get Kyren Williams and his production over the uncertainty of the floor and ceiling of the player I'm getting at 107, I mean, 107 is no guarantee in a 1 quarterback draft. And other people may think that Kyren Williams is no guarantee. I'm not afraid of Kyren Williams. I love Kyren Williams just as you do. So I'll take this deal. I will give you 107 and my 210. You'll give me your Kyren Williams and a 25 3rd round pick.
That is good enough for me, sir. So with that said, moving on to the 108, the last solo pick of this video, looking at running back again. And that's because I think there's a lot of teams out there that are going to be needing running backs, and this draft is not the one to go get them. As much as, like I've said before previously with other picks, there's a lot of fun running backs, a lot of running backs I love, but I feel it's going to be a lot of situation dependency, a lot of opportunity dependency. How quick can it get running an offense? Full pun intended. But somebody who's going to get a lot of run in an offense immediately, as of right now, even if they draft a running back, which they absolutely could and probably should, I think James Cook is going to get a good bit of run in this offense still. I'm looking for James Cook plus a 25 third. James Cook, in my opinion, one of the most affordable running back ones out there at this point. Locked in as this team's running back 1. Nobody's coming for his job. And despite the loss of Diggs and Gabe Davis, I expect this Bills offense, along with Josh Allen, to continue to be very fruitful for fantasy. Hey, if the target's got to go somewhere. If James Cook is going to pick up some receiving work and help me further my team into a more competitive roster from the 108, get me up to that 112. Let's see if we can turn this into a league winner of a deal. Zach, do you want my 108 for James Cook and a 25 third? What are your thoughts?
Well, listen, the Bills did draft Tyrone Tracy in the 4th round, so
whatever.
I'm happy. I'm happy to do this deal. Yeah, James Cook was an RB1 last year, but there's a very real world where he's not an RB1 this year. Who knows? There's definitely that ceiling there, but the floor is also low for James Cook. Like, he could be RB20, and that wouldn't surprise me one bit. So I will do this deal. I will ask for a 4th round pick back. Can be any year. And I'm going to start asking for Fab, Bob. It is my New Year's resolution start asking for fab. I haven't asked for fab in any of these trades. This is a deal breaker. $5 fab and a 4th round pick in return.
You can have your $5 fab, and I will give you a 26 fourth because you said any year.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I ran to the sleeper tab and I sent that trade offer and made you eat your words real quick.
You know, Bob, by the time we're doing this process, 27 picks will be available, no?
It's definitely possible. So, hey, 26 ain't looking so bad then, is it? So we are on to our first bundle of picks, looking at the late first round here. The 109 to 112. Zach, what are you looking to get out of this pick? Picks, one of the picks that are on the board here.
This to me is really where almost any year I'd really love to trade back and just pick up the value that the second round brings. I'm a big in agreement with Nate where just almost every year I love the value of the second round. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because it's the number 2 and people perceive those picks to be less than ones with the number 1 in front. I don't know. But I love the value of second round picks this year. I loved them last year. I loved them in the year before. That's where you could get Amon-Ra St. Brown. Last year, you could get Jaden Reed. You've been able to get so many good players in the second round, and I think you can do it again in 2024. And you start to look at the first round picks the last 2 years in the 109 to 112 range. 2 years ago, it's Sky Moore, it's Christian Watson, it's George Pickens, it's Jahan Dotson. That was like the end of your first round 2 years ago. Last year, Dalton Kincaid was in there. I will say that. Quentin Johnson was in there last year. I think Jordan Addison and one of those Zay Flowers was sort of in that area. So there's a potential to really, really miss in this area or just not get the value of what you should get for a first round pick with the number 1 in front of it. So what I'd like to do here, Bob, is either trade back for multiple seconds, or if I'm trying to acquire a player, because obviously I have one of the last 4 picks in the draft, which means I was either in the championship game or the semifinals, I'd like to get a player that I can buy low on that I think will exceed his ADP or his value a year from now. And to me, that's Deontay Johnson, who was just traded to the Carolina Panthers, is their perceived number 1 wide receiver. On paper, it looks disgusting. But so did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a year ago with Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Rachaad White, and all of them ended up being fantasy relevant. Probably could use more touchdowns from Chris Godwin, but it is what it is. And you look at 2 years ago, Dave Canales in Seattle, Tyler Lockett, Geno Smith, DK Metcalf. Nobody saw Geno Smith coming. So I'm not saying that nobody's going to see Bryce Young coming this year, but I believe that Dave Canales can get the most out of that offense of anybody out there, because he's done that the last 2 years with offenses we never saw coming. We didn't see the Seattle Seahawks coming 2 years ago. And guess who was part of that offensive coaching group? Dave Canales. We didn't see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming last year. And guess who was their offensive coordinator? Dave Canales. So I'm at least expecting the Carolina Panthers to be a middle-of-the-road offense in 2024. So can I get Deontay Johnson for any one of these picks? If I'm moving 109 through 109 or 110, I'm going to ask for Deontay Johnson and a second round pick. If I'm moving 111 or 112, I'm going to ask for Deontay Johnson and a third round pick. I don't care what years those picks are. I think Deontay Johnson could probably outperform any player selected at any one of these 4 spots. So I don't really care what year that pick is.
Yeah, I think that this is a pretty decent deal. I think I'm probably the most likely to be willing to move my third instead of a second. Maybe that's my deal. And my deal in general is moving Deontay in a third for any pick in this range, is kind of where I'm at, because I 100% agree with you that Deontay, at least early, is going to outperform any pick in this range. If you're a competitive team, 109 to 112 is somebody you're estate planning with to plan to help you out in 2025 or 2026. Deontay Johnson, all he did last year was get open. All the Carolina wide receiver did, especially on the tail end of last year, was not get open. So Deontay fixes that problem. I do think he comes in and is the de facto wide receiver 1 there. But if I'm a let's say I'm a rebuilding team in this point, I'm kind of happy getting a better asset. Then I'm improving my third round pick by sending Deontay Johnson, a future third. I'm improving that, getting that pick now, and actually, by moving Deontay, expediting my rebuild that bit by not waiting on that 25 third for God knows what it's going to be. And I'm not letting Deontay Johnson's value fall any further, although there is obviously the argument if he does do well, his value could certainly rise. But I'm happy making this pick, getting a first for Deontay Johnson as I'm sending a third still. Let's say a 25 third. Zach, are you happy with that deal? Deontay Johnson, 25 third, one of these picks, wrap it up, ship it to Amazon.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. Luckily for you, I lost in the championship game. So this is 111. I'll take this third round pick, and I'm ecstatic to get Deontay Johnson because I think this is a deal. I think he will outperform the value of this trade when we look back on it a year from now.
I'm really good at drafting rookies, though, so I might get the best rookie out of the bunch there, Zach. Don't rule me out. Certainly rule that in. But speaking of ruling things in, we are on to the second round. We are looking at the early second. I have this bundle of picks, and with any early picks in any round, talked on it before, if I have the 01, 02, 03, very much less likely with the 04. I'm looking to re-roll this pick. In this instance, I'm going to try sending one of these picks for a 25 first. Call it random, call it what you will. See if I can re-roll for an automatically improved value pick by trading out into next year's first round with one of these early seconds. Since this pick can't turn into any 25 first, automatic upgrade of value just at the cost of waiting to make that pick. So I bank the value now, reap the rewards next year. And even if I happen to be a competitive team who happens to have one of these picks, a rookie here won't really help me, but it could help a rebuilding team or a team that's just, trending up, but not quite there yet. But if I have a first round pick next year, bank it in next year, I can either A, draft a more valuable rookie, or B, and possibly more likely, is I can use that first round pick to make a deal in season to a team that is no longer in the running, that is willing to buy a 25 first. Zach, can I have one of your 25 firsts? You're a good building team, so you have a couple kicking around. One looks a little later. You have an adjacent first to yourself. It's not an early first. So can I get a first round pick from you next year, Zach, for one of these picks?
As funny you mention it, I have 3 first round picks and all our teams that were in the semifinals this year, Bob. So I'm going to let you pick which one you want because I believe in a player that's here on the board. I'm feeling so good that I'm going to move up here and get a player that I think can really help me this year. With top half of the second round. I love the value. I cannot stress it enough. I love the value of the players that are, especially at this 201 through 204. I think any of those players would be worth a first round pick a year from now. I'm not scared to take your pick.
Well, now that just puts a lot of pressure on me. I was hoping to think of a team that are a bunch of players that were falling off a cliff soon.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I'll take that team's first round pick. So, but I'd get to do some forecasting myself. But let's move along to the mid-second, Zach. Your last segment of picks, picking from the mid-second, a pick in the range of the 205 to the 208. What are you looking to get out of this pick range? Zach, tell me about it.
Yeah, middle of the second round, as I've mentioned a couple times, love what I'm getting here. If I did have to trade or if I wanted to trade these picks, and I have done these moves, and it. I would be targeting Jahan Dotson or Jacoby Myers and a 2025 third-round pick. I don't want the third-round pick this year because I think when you look at it in a one-year scope, a mid-second-round pick for either one of those players is fair, but there is risk with both, right? I still believe in Jahan Dotson, especially at this value. This is the reason why Jahan Dotson, for me, has been somebody I've been targeting. He's a first-round wide receiver. And what is the more likely of these two statements? Jahan Dotson sucks or Sam Howell sucks? Which one of those is more likely?
I'm going to go with Sam Howell since he was traded for a late.
Thank you. All I have to do when I talk about the Washington wide receivers is reference Terry McLaurin's. I don't know. I was running sprints when he got 0 targets in the game. I still believe in Jahan Dotson. I think getting him, who was an NFL first round pick and a fantasy rookie first round pick 2 years ago, if I can pick him up for a 206, 207. I'm happy to do so. I would like a little bit of a kickback so that I have that insurance in case Jahan Dotson isn't as good as I'm projecting him to be. With Jacoby Myers is my most money ball player. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of money ball, but there are a few teams, and these are teams where I'm usually stacked at quarterback. I have Josh Allen and I have Joe Burrow at quarterback. I'm like, oh my God, I have 800 fantasy points at quarterback. how can I add points on this team cheap? You know, I look back at last year's standings. Oh, playoff teams were 1,700 to 2,000 points. I need to get 900 to 1,300 more points on my roster. This is a Moneyball approach. This is what Moneyball is. And I'm like, dude, Jacoby Myers is a guaranteed 200 fantasy points next year. I would say even a little bit more, 210, 220. I think they're going to have better quarterback play, whether it's Gardner Minshew or whether it's Michael Penix or whoever they draft in the NFL draft. I think it's better than what Aiden O'Connell was throughout most of the season last year. And so I'm targeting one of those two players and a future third for my mid-second round pick, Bob.
Talking Jahan Dotson, let's split these two players up. Jahan Dotson, I think this is a good re-roll range for him. If you're just looking to take another shot on a wide receiver, you're kind of over the Jahan Dotson train or roller coaster that it's been, is a better term. You're not on the Jahan Dotson train anymore. Get the heck off. I think that's a fair range. I think with both of these players, especially Jahan, I'm looking to, instead of sending an outright future third, can we pick swap in this year's third round? I'll give you a bit of an upgrade. I'll give you like a 6-pick upgrade in the third round. I happen to have your 305. You happen to have my 312 because we trade a lot. Can we flip those picks and just call it that instead of sending an outright future third? I'm kind of in the same boat with Jacoby Myers. I'm maybe a little more likely to just be willing to send Jacoby Myers by himself because I do know he is a good value in this range. And I do know that you are a competitive team trying to better your 208, whatever pick it is, trying to better that pick to help your roster improve. And I think I'm more confident in Jacoby doing that for you more than I am Jahan Dotson. So since I have both, I'm also, keeping myself kind of fluid in the direction I can go with the rest of my team. I can stay young with Jahan Dotson, give it another roll, believe in the talent. So I'm willing to do, I'd either do Jacoby Myers straight up for this pick, for any pick in this range, or I'd be willing to pick flip in the third round. I'll send you Jahan Dotson and a mid-third for this mid-second and a later third-round pick. Do we have a deal?
Yeah, absolutely. I love both these deals. I just want to add one caveat. If it was the Jacoby Myers deal, I would even ask for a fourth. I just want a little bit of safety. I'm not saying that Jacoby Myers is like foolproof player or anything like that. There is a world where, hey, their quarterback sucks, and they're not able to run the ball, and there is a possibility, and that's all I want. I just want a little bit of protection. I want to be able to get another player. It's like, well, at least I got that out of that deal, Sure. So I will do the Jahan Dotson deal straight up, or I would do the Jacoby Myers and a 2025 fourth round pick.
I'm good with both. So moving along to the last bit of the segments here, late second round pick, looking at the 209 to 212 range. We've talked about it at nauseum through this video. Is the running back class, we're not super psyched about at this point. We've acknowledged that there's a lot of holes. As much as there's players that we like, there's a lot of red flags, a lot of production concerns, a lot of age concerns for some running backs, etc. You name it, not a lot of usage. Red flags up and down the wazoo. But I'm looking to see if I can add a running back instead to the likes of Zamir White, Chase Brown, or our favorite that we already mentioned, Kendre Miller. Bank some upside for this season, hopefully bolster some running back depth. I'm not looking to get starters out of this spot anyway, but somebody I can, plug and play possibly in a flex or snatch for a little bit of upside comparative to the players that are available in this class at the running back position. Zach, what are your thoughts on this deal? Can I get one of these guys off your bench? You got Bijan and Brees and Jahmyr Gibbs anyway. You don't need these scrubs.
Listen, you're going to have to pry Kendre Miller out of my cold, dead grip. That is not happening. I'd be more inclined to do Zamir White or Chase Brown. Those two straight up. I could just pick another running back and reset the clock on running back. This is kind of where some of the running backs are going to go, whether it's Braylon Allen, Jalen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd. I'm okay doing that. Like you said, I'm pretty loaded at wide receiver, but Kendre Miller is my – so I'm not going to let that happen, but I still believe, I still have faith, and but I'll do any of the other two running backs there.
All right. Good enough deal for me, and I hope this was a good enough deal for you. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it. Comment down below what you thought of these deals and what deals are you trying to make sending away your first round picks. Head on over to Discord. Let us know there, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. Get in there for a free 7-day trial, and if you want that much more help knowing what to move your first and second round picks for, Check out the roster review option in the pinned comment below or the YouTube description box. But with all that said, Zach and I are going to get the heck on out of here. We'll see you in the next one. But until then, I hope that y'all have a good one.